So I'm recording this video because it really has a lot to do with current events, and I just have to share a couple things. For the last 3 weeks, God's been sending me a lot of videos on moving. So I've been getting a lot of stuff in my feeds about, moving to somewhere, and I didn't know where God was intending on moving me. But I have been getting a lot of signs and signals that I was going to go ahead and move. And at the same time, I started getting these videos in my feed, like probably, I don't even know how many, like 30, 40 videos from a country, from somewhere else, a strange country, a foreign country. And looking at the writing, it almost looked like Burmese or Thai. And I'm actually going to show you some pictures of my feed of videos I watch, because it shows these Thai videos. And I don't know anybody from Thailand. I don't talk to anybody from Thailand. I don't know anybody that speaks the language that I talk to regularly. So I don't know who this would be. But at the same time I was looking at moving, I was getting all these videos coming in my feed. But the real thing about it that was very different, now I was going to let everybody know that recently there was a 7.5 earthquake, and there was actually a huge skyscraper that collapsed that they were building. The whole building collapsed in Thailand, which is, to me, was like, wow. So I didn't know initially if God was telling me to move to Thailand, because I was getting all these videos. I thought it very strange. So I said, maybe that's where he wants me to move to. And but when I looked at these, if you look at, and these two, I'm going to show a couple screenshots. The one was from Tuesday. So this was not, people are going to say, well, you did it after the fact. Well, not really. This was from Tuesday. And but I just want to show you the kinds of videos they were, because the one was, I kept on getting these videos for brand new high-end cars, like Mercedes, black vehicles, black electric cars, Chinese knockoffs of, they're probably expensive, but they were black electric cars, kind of like high-end. And but anyways, they were people selling these in Thailand. And the second thing I would get a whole bunch of videos about, that's picture here, you can see, like drum samples, electric drum kits, keyboards. They're demoing them and selling them as well. And so I thought that very strange. But at first I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? And then I also was trying to put this all together. But then I would also get videos on how to shoot, basically shoot porn, PORN videos. So I don't watch porn, I don't film porn, and I have zero interest in either filming it or, watching it. I prayed that God would took all that desire out of me to watch those. And I can honestly say I have zero interest in watching videos or filming them or any of that stuff. And I'm glad. I just felt like God delivered me from that totally. Like, where I'd asked him to take the desire away from me for those things. And, anything, even that was inside of me, even though I wasn't watching them. So, and so you can see that these, and I was thinking, I was praying about it. I was like, oh, so what God's really speaking about, like I felt the revelation to me was, he was saying that there's judgment, basically with this earthquake in Thailand, that God is judging those things that basically that are not righteous. Like if you look at, in Thailand, I'm sure lots of people are buying luxury cars and thinking about these things, and people buying musical equipment, people filming porn. And, so I think what that means is that God is judging those people that are doing this, and that it's not righteous. These are not righteous things that he's dealing with in judgment. And so the scripture I was going to share, this is a famous scripture. It's in Habakkuk chapter 2. And everybody quotes this scripture because they're talking about, oh, I want a car, I want a house, and that God will fulfill that. And so it says, then the Lord answered me and said, write a vision and engrave it plainly on clay tablets, so that the one who reads it will run. For the vision is not yet appointed, future time. It hurries towards the goal of fulfillment. It will not fail. Even though it delays, wait patiently for it, because it will not delay. And so Habakkuk was a watchman on the wall. So he was basically watching for trouble. They were watching for things here in Jerusalem and they're saying, hey, there's trouble. There's things that are going on. So he's the watchman over people. And today that would be people that are righteous, people that are living for God. And he talks a little bit later in the chapter, in verse 15. So he's talking about people that are basically drinking and doing that kind of stuff. And now he says that appointed time is really what he's talking about. Wasn't really this. If you read the whole chapter, he's talking about people that are doing wickedness, people that are doing wrong. And so that's what he's talking about. Not I want a $1 million house, I want to drive a Lamborghini, and then God fulfills the promise. I mean, I guess it could be loosely that, but if you read the whole chapter, he's talking about people that get away with stuff for a long period of time. You could think about Nebuchadnezzar. What did Nebuchadnezzar do? So he basically captured the Israelites, brought them into Babylon, and then he set himself up. So he was basically speaking very arrogantly, and he's basically talking about how great he was and all this stuff. And there was a prophecy against him. Basically, if you don't change within the next year, God's going to humble you. And what did he end up doing? He ended up eating grass, and he was kicked out of his position of kingship until he acknowledged God, until he acknowledged the Most High. Then he was brought back into right standing, and he learned that God is real, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that there was an appointed time for him to change, and he didn't do it, and he had to be humbled tremendously. So in verse chapter 2, this is really for anybody. This is I lived as a prodigal in my life, and I had to come back to God, and I'm so glad that I obeyed God. But for those people in chapter 2, he talks about that was an appointed time. The appointed time was the time where God gave them to turn around and to change, and then they didn't do it. They decided to keep on going, and then God basically, they got proud, just like Nebuchadnezzar didn't think nothing was going to happen. And in chapter 2, verse 15, he basically talks about the people who are getting their neighbors drunk and stuff. And he said in end of verse 15, he says, so that you may, woe is your venom made to them drunk, so that you may look at their nakedness. You will be filled with disgrace instead of honor. Now drink and expose your own nakedness. The cup of wrath is in the Lord's right hand, will come around to you, O destroyer, and utter disgrace will be your own glory. So basically what he's saying there, at that appointed time, it's if you did right, if you planted seeds of righteousness, seeds of doing right to people, you'll get a reward. But if you planted the wrong seeds, the seeds for whatever it is, being selfish, being doing things outside of the will of God, let's put it that way, then you're going to have to, it says your nakedness will be exposed, and then you'll be in disgrace. God will put you in a condition of disgrace, just like Nebuchadnezzar. And so this is it's a warning, but it's also there's judgment, and that's unfortunate. But the good thing is Nebuchadnezzar eventually humbled himself and came around, and then God restored him. So it's a warning, but I also think it's a very serious warning, because look what happened in Thailand, a 7.5 earthquake. So anyways, I hope this is it helps people. I hope it helps people to